quadratics is the name, which are most of the formulas that we use or equations, where the x, my variable, is squared. So I know it's not easy to see here, so I'll just rewrite that equation. But the equation is, and don't get alarmed. You're going to see this and be like, what is that? That's just different notation of saying, in this case, y equals, in this case, you can't quite see it, but it's negative x squared. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and just kind of plug through these things. So you want to make sure you got a calculator with you, unless you remember all of your multiplication easy. Writing down work and showing work. So what we're going to do is we're going to first find what goes in there. All right, so what that means is, with this whole f of x, means if I take some number for x, negative 3, and I put it in here for x and in there for x, what is my new value going to be? That is, if I go, okay, y equals negative 3 squared. All right, and that negative in front happens after I square it. That's why it's negative x squared. If it were negative x squared, then you would take and go negative times a negative, and it would always be a positive. But that's not what it is. This is a, first we square, and then it's going to be a negative number. So it's kind of like saying negative 1 times 3 squared. All right, so if we do that, we go, all right, PERMDAS, exponents go first. So I have negative 1 times 9, or y equals negative 9. So right here in my box, I put negative 9. All right, and it was negative 3 squared. Didn't notice that right before. That's a negative 3. So it's going to be negative 3. I'm getting kind of sloppy here. I apologize. But I'm explaining as I go. So it's negative 3 squared, which means negative 3 times negative 3, which is still positive 9 for that original 9. Negative 3 times negative 3 is 9, times negative 1 is still negative 9. So I'm still good. All right, so then, let me kind of move some of this stuff and shrink it up. I don't want to shrink that up, because I tied those together. I'm going to move that off my screen somewhere. Then I'm going to go and do the next one. Well, that's negative 9 by the way. So I'm going to take the negative 2 for x, right here, this negative 2. I'm going to put in the equation. Y equals negative 1 times negative 2 squared. So I go, all right, negative 2 squared is negative 2 times negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4 times negative 1. Y equals negative 4. So in here I put negative 4. All right, and then, a little negative 4 went away. I'm going to keep going. All right, negative 1 squared, which is negative 1 times negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. Positive 1 times this negative again is negative 1. Put in 0. These are oftentimes the easiest ones. Well, let's see. 0 times 0 is 0. Negative 0 is just plain old 0. Take that next one, and I'm going to have the next one over there is 1. This one. So it's y equals negative 1 times 1 squared. 1 squared is 1 times negative 1. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. All right. So that becomes, wrong thing, negative 1. And then I put in the 2 squared, I get negative 4. I put in the 3 squared is 9 times negative 1 is negative 9. So now I have all these points, and now I'm going to graph them. I like to start with in this case, the middle one, 0, 0. 0 is the x. This is the y. Remember, because I said f of x is just like saying y. So this point right here is 0, 0, which is 0 in the x, 0 in the y, so I plot it. This next point over here is 1, negative 1. 1 for the x, negative 1 for the y, which means I go 1 in the x direction, negative 1 in the y direction, and I have that point right here. So again, this point is that point right there. All right, then I'm going to keep going to the right. I have 2, negative 4. So I go 2 in the x direction, negative 4 in the y direction. So I have my point right down there at 2, negative 4. And then I have 3 over here, 3, negative 9. 3, negative 9 is 3 in the x direction. So that's 1, 2, 3 in the x direction because that's the x-axis. And negative 9 means I go down 9. And then I do the same thing on the other side. Negative 1, negative 1. Negative 2, negative 4. Negative 3, negative 9. And now I have my graph. And if you put a ruler on this, you will see that it is not linear. It's actually curved. So I'm going to try to connect those dots kind of like that. That is what is called a parabola. That is the shape of a quadratic. So that was the first one from your sheet. Let's go to the second one. There's the second one. And we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to show you a couple and then just fill in the numbers. So I have, let's do this one here. So I put in negative 2. So 5x squared plus 5. So that's going to be 5 times, my x is negative 2. So it's going to be negative 2 squared plus 5. Order of operations, 5 times 4 plus 5, 20 plus 5, or 25. 25. And if you look at my scaling over here, it goes 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So at negative 2, that's negative 1, that's negative 2. I'm already up. At negative 2, I'm up to 25, which is right there. I'll make it a different color. Is that point right there. Negative 2, comma 25. All right. And if I do another value, like, let's see. Let's do it for the 1. So I'm going to have same equation. 5x squared plus 5. So I'm going to go 5 times, x now is 1, so it's 1 squared, plus 5. So it's 5 times 1 plus 5, which is 5 plus 5, which is 10. So at x equals 1, my y is 10. So I go over to 1 and up to 10. So there's that point I just put right there. This point is there. This one is here. And now I'm going to plug in these other numbers. You should check my math, though. Because if you look at like this one, so negative 3 squared, so 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 5 is 45. 45 plus 5 is 50. So I went from 10, then I went up to 25, then I go up to 50. They're getting bigger and bigger every time. So then I plot those points. This one is negative 3. So again, it's 1, 2, 3, and then up to 50, all the way up there. And then I'll plot the other points. And then I look at them and go, oh, look, it's another curve, but this one goes up. The last one we did went down, so I'll go ahead and connect those points if I can here with my... Oop, I missed. Well, you get the idea. Should have been down and then up and through like that. But it's a curve. It's what's called a parabola, and that's number 3 that we had to do. And here's actually the second one. All right. What your job is, what I want you to do, is see if you can plug in the numbers into here, put them in here, and then graph the points. All right, and that's what I want you to try to do before you come to class. It might take you a little bit of time, all right, but remember, I'll tell you right now that when you're done, it should be an up-facing parabola. All right. The reason why I know that is I look at this and I say, the x squared is positive. Remember that last one we did? The last one had 5x squared. 5 was positive. Remember the first one we did? It was negative x squared. The negative x squared went down. All right? So that's why I know that this one will be an up-facing U. You need to find the corresponding points and graph them on here. In case you can't read what it says, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they're only going up by ones. Same with all these going to the right and to the left. All right, that's what you're going to do. Bring it to class. We'll see you when you get there.